We now return to Ace Attorney Chronicles. Just what I was waiting for, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, right. So, cast your eyes down to your wrists again. Oh boy, what? You've done it again. Your handcuffs are gone. Where did they go? Fear not. I shall see they're restored after our work is done. Really wish you'd leave them off. Now, everyone, let us begin. Sherlock Sholmes is proud to present his Logic Spectacular again. This time with course correction. Come on. Miss Pavlova, moments ago you claimed the following. I'm just going to hit autoplay, and even though this is all going to go the same... Really? I can't autoplay this? Okay, there we go. Because it's not like I'm going any faster when I click it, so... We'll just do all this. Recall aching hearts. What? You have a pained expression on your face. Okay, stop. Yes, that's true. She looks as though Kazuma-sama's death is weighing heavily on her mind. But you're not sure Mr. Holmes has read her quite correctly, is that it? Could there be some other way to interpret her expression, then? Let's take a moment, and really look very closely at Miss Pavlova. When you recall those horrid events, your aching heart smarts with pain. It seems to be her hand that smarts with pain more than anything. She really does look troubled. Yes, it's hard to believe she's putting that expression on to fool us. But if you look closely, it's almost like she's actually staring at something. Snake bite? At what, do you think? Perhaps something's physically causing her pain. We should have a closer look. Zoom, enhance. Nothing's triggering. Ah. Oh, Naruhodo-san, look! That looks like a very painful wound. It looks like a scratch made by some kind of small animal. So it's not a snake. It's a rat? And fairly recently, too. Well, whatever scratch... Ah! The rat got loose and they sent a snake to kill it? Whatever scratched her doesn't appear to be around here. Or the snake chased a rat and it bit her, and I don't know. Well, could we present that?
Yes!
That claw scratch smarts with pain. The rat bit and or scratched her, and she released her snake to go hunt it down, where it accidentally got into Kazuma's room. It didn't intentionally kill him. But this snake has been known before because what's-his-face, Stroganoff, had that mark on his face the first time we saw him. So from the beginning, he's already had the snake. And then they came back. So did he find it while he was killing Kazuma? Kazuma was already dead. He ran out. Closed the door. We'll find out anyway. Yes, when you recall those horrid events, the claw scratch smarts with pain. Indeed, the simple observation reveals that the wound is fresh. Miss Pavlova, did you in fact receive that scratch sometime last night? Ah. When I think about the young man who died next door, I feel so sad. And when I am sad, the pain from this wound is worse. Ah. And it is that very pain that evidences your inextricable link to the victim's death. So we ask, what was the nature of this intruder that stole into the cabin? We can go back to autoplay. It was the friend, perhaps. as I suspected. Another glance at what's his face? Without doubt, your friend is the writhing serpent before us. Okay, apparently not. It seems likely that the scratch mark on the back of Miss Pavlova's hand was made by this friend of hers, doesn't it? Except, snakes don't have claws, do they? No, they don't. They don't even have hands or feet on which claws might grow. Well then, if that snake isn't her pet, what is? What's the true identity of this friend of hers? Was that the brown stain? It was the blood of the rat that she ate? We should follow her gaze, Naruhodo-san. That's where we'll find the answer. Or the empty teapot? She went after it and dumped her... wait a minute. Wait a minute! And there's the bell. Oh no, the snake ate the cat? Look at the photograph in this frame. This must be something Miss Pavlova brought with her when she ran away. She is exceptionally beautiful, isn't she? Yes, that's true. And she's not bad looking herself. Joke about the cat. But personally, it's the little black creature she's holding that caught my eye. Maybe we'd better take a closer look at this. Look at the little cat Miss Pavlova is cuddling here. Oh, what a cute little kitten. It could vie with you, couldn't it, Naruhodo-san? For the blackest outfit. A black kitten. And from the look of this picture, at least, Miss Pavlova seems very attached to it. That must be a stage costume she's wearing. It's quite stunning. I should have I should like to have something like that. And she's wearing the 20,000 rubles on her head as well. Look. It's called a tiara, Naruhodo-san. And you shouldn't think of it purely in terms of its value. She must be... Why? Like, she literally said, this is the only money I have. Like, everybody's thinking of it in that term. She must be a strong-willed woman to turn her back on the world stage and run away all on her own. I guess we present that then. Without doubt, your friend is the little kitten we see before us. Without doubt, your friend is the little kitten we see before us. Yes, the scratch on the back of your hand makes that abundantly clear. Oh no. The whereabouts of this black kitten isn't clear, but what is clear is that you brought the animal with you when you ran away, didn't you? No. Darka is my friend. I couldn't leave her behind. Darka would appear to be a Russian blue. And yet, that fact leaves us in a quandary. The victim's it has no fangs. The victim's written observations on the night in question tell of a speckled band. Whereas, regrettably, this specimen's markings do not fit that description in any way. What explanation can we then give, pray? What was the sight that fell upon the victim's eyes last night? The collar? No, don't look at me. This has nothing to do with any of this. Oh, but it does. We have the answer right there. Yes, yes. It's neat how they smoothly transition into this, but I also hate having to go over something we've already gone over. The snake's soft skin. Did you see that? She just took something out of her pocket and hid it behind her back. If she just left it in her pocket, no one would have ever known. Oh yes, ploys like that are Mr. Sholm's specialty. He's ever so cleverly forced her to reveal something. I thought deduction was his specialty. Or maybe making me believe that was a ploy too. Anyway, I find it hard to believe that that's the skin of a snake. In which case, just what is Ms. Pavlova hiding behind her back? Zoom. Oh. He's one of those whip things. Well, it's speckled, and it is a band, but... Oh, she was trying to get it back through by putting that in the... Okay. We've been led astray this whole time. But what is it? It seems to be soft and fluffy, a long piece of cloth of some sort. And that looks like a handle at one end. I think it may be a cat's toy. Sort is common in the West, apparently. How is that a toy for cats? Cats like to chase the band around and paw at it. Kittens in particular love that sort of play. You only need to wave it in front of them, and they pounce to it and catch it. Aha, that sounds positively adorable. Okay, can we present this now?
Yes!
Yes, the thing you are trying, but failing to conceal, is a cat's toy. Precisely. And the true nature of the now infamous speckled band. And it was this toy that you dangled through the ventilator. You waved it around, I presume. Naturally, the victim could not fail to notice it. But why? For what reason? My dear boy, there can be only one answer to that. After her feline friend disappeared through the ventilator into the neighboring cabin, Miss Pavlova attempted to use the speckled cat's toy to incite the creature to return, instead of going next door and knocking on the door like a normal person saying, "Hello, my cat appears to have entered into your cabin." Whatever. Ah. In summary, the nature of this friend of Miss Pavlova's, which last night infiltrated the scene of the crime, is a blithesome Russian blue breed of cat by the name of Dark. A truly troublesome feline, young Darka is proving to be. She must be caged once found. You will forgive us for borrowing the photograph of your pet, Miss Pavlova. The photograph of Miss Pavlova and Darka has been entered into the court record. It was after I gave her her food last night. That's when it happened. She scratched the back of my hand, and then ran up the bell cord. Before I could do anything, she had disappeared. Through the ventilator. Darka, she is so naughty. A beloved kitten. But now, how did he die? Moving on, come to the heart of the matter, the grim demise of the victim. Go ahead. Oh, is it underneath the cabinet? Is that what he was trying to write down? Your cat is under the cabinet? According to the data of the prize, it appears there are no visible signs of injury, yada yada. Circumstances of the victim's death may be a terrible venom. What Mr. Sholmes says is true. There were no signs of a wound anywhere on Kazuma-sama's body. That's right. But Mr. Sholmes seems to be unaware of one very important detail. Kazuma wasn't poisoned. Yes, it would seem so. Let's give him the information he's missing now. It's this, yes?
Yes!
Did that say review score? In fact, the circumstances of the victim's death can only be explained by the post-mortem report. Ah, yes, I knew it was one or the other. His neck was... Indeed. The breaking of the cervical vertebrae is fatal. Only that Goliath would be strong enough to survive that. Seaman Stroganoff isn't some immortal freak, you know. The jury's out, anyway. We have on good authority that the victim's neck was broken. Now, if we take that as fact, we can reasonably imagine that there remains evidence to affirm it at the scene of the crime. Well, no, could there be? Yes, an examination of the deceased's body will prove the cause of death conclusively. Kazuma died because his neck was broken. In other words, he was probably struck by something, Or someone. Yes, that's a distinct possibility. As of yet, no weapon's been found, though. Presumably, Darka didn't silently creep up behind Kazuma and deal him a fatal blow. I suppose it's possible that he had a fall and hit the ground awkwardly? It could have been a terrible act of misfortune that he broke his neck completely by accident, but he... something... Oh yes, a bad fall could explain it. It's rather hard to believe of Kazuma-sama, though. He wasn't a clumsy man. Well, we need to fix this deduction somehow. Is there anything from the scene that could explain what happened? He tripped over the cat? I guess it's this. Oh, review scene. Okay.
Yes!
A mark on the floor. An examination of the mark on the floor will prove the cause of death conclusively. This particular mark, so prominently visible next to the victim's body, is a deposit of shoe polish. Is it, though? Shoe polish? Indeed. Positively identified by a little bottle of water, a little analysis device I constructed, which I carry now as a matter of course. Beeswax, tallow, and dye were my results, the undeniable ingredients of shoe polish. And the color of the polish is a perfect match to the color of Mr. Asogi's laced leather shoes. Looking at this mark, it's not hard to imagine what happened. For some reason, Mr. Asogi must have caught his foot at that point on the floor and tripped. That's a goddamn hard fall to snap your neck, falling like that. Do not do belly flops, people. Please, no. And, by a dreadful turn of misfortune, caught his neck against some immovable object. The desk. The desk. Maybe. Where he tipped over the ink? Maybe. Caught his neck against some immovable object as he fell on the floor. Suffering a fatal blow to the spine, the victim's vertebrae shattered, and in that instant, he lost his life. Well then, who wrote the thing on the floor? I don't know. I don't know anything about this. Is that really true, Miss Pavlova? What about the evidence left at the scene where Mr. Asogi lost his life? Yes, the facts are clear as day to me. You did all you could to conceal the incriminating evidence. Now your involuntary glance looks at whom? Oh, that's right. You hid the evidence in the traveling case. Which must not be the case at all. I don't believe it. Kazuma-sama merely tripped over and now he's no more? It can't be true. I refuse to accept it. I know it's hard to believe, but the mark on the floor does seem to suggest that happened. And if this part of Mr. Sholm's deduction is right, Miss Pavlova is trying to hide some evidence that would prove it. Here in this cabin, somewhere in the direction that she just cast her eyes. Where, I wonder? Let's have a good look around. The answer must be here somewhere. The tiara? I mean, I guess we can look in here finally, huh? This is where Miss Pavlova hid her friend. That's right. But it wasn't a snake after all. No, it was that little kitten she calls Darka. Not that it's anywhere to be seen now. It seems to have let itself out of the case and gone exploring. How is that possible? It was strapped and snapped. I expect it wrapped itself around someone's head somewhere, trying to make a new friend. Stroganoff is... But his markings were like bands on his face. Either that, or it's scratching their hand to pieces. The point is, where's it got to? And there's nothing in the waste paper basket. I mean, we can look at this again, I suppose, but just in case there's a kitten hiding in there. This was a waste paper basket. Perhaps all first-class cabins have them. But Miss Pavlova only started occupying this cabin late last night. Presumably there's not much rubbish in there yet, but I see something in there. Half the bell. Oh, what's that? It's a broken piece of glass, isn't it? Yeah, Yes, it is. And I feel like I've seen it somewhere before. If it looks familiar, perhaps it's more than your mind simply playing tricks on you. Present?
Yes!
That's right, you hid the evidence that links you to the victim's death in that waste paper basket. Ah! Here we have a small fragment of some intricate glass object, it would seem. One that has a familiar air, in fact. Precisely. We found another piece of broken glass on the floor in Mr. Osogi's cabin. And, as you can see, the two pieces fit together perfectly. Oh no. So, Ms. Pavlova, shall we consider what this tells us? Why would it be that part of this glass object, which was evidently broken at the scene of the victim's death, should be found in the waste paper basket in your cabin? Yeah. You're well acquainted with this glass bell, are you not? I don't know. Is that hushed Russian accent of yours? In that hushed Russian accent of yours, won't save you this time, dear girl. Why? Because we have conclusive evidence linking you to the bell in question. Take it away, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes. The evidence linking Miss Pavlova and the little glass bell would be...
Yes!
If you look at this photograph, you can clearly see, hanging from Darka's collar, the very glass bell in question. The truth has caught up with you, Miss Pavlova. The young man who lost his life last night did so after a truly inauspicious fall. And the cause of that fateful stumble? Your absent feline friend, Darka. Still doesn't explain everything else. I mean, I guess maybe he knew that he was dying and then he decided to write the wardrobe on the thing so that the Russian sailors who found his body would come and find me? Is it just that simple? It still doesn't explain the marks that were on his face, on Stroganov's face, and the snake. Other than he catches the rats to feed his own snake and it's his pet, not hers. I couldn't tell anyone. I'm sorry. Death by tripping over a cat. Deduction complete. Elementary. Why don't you tell us now, Miss Pavlova? Tell us exactly what happened last night. It was a little after 1 in the morning. It was so late, but I hadn't had time to feed Darka, so I gave her some food. And then, all of a sudden, she scratched me and jumped out of my hands. People do say that cats become very anxious and nervous in new environments. She was so fast, she disappeared through the ventilator before I could stop her. And that is how you acquired the rather nasty wound on the back of your hand, I take it. Yes. And I read the rules on the wall. I knew that I was not allowed Darka with me. Yes, modern science suggests that animals can carry infectious diseases. It's a precaution, really. So I listened and listened, trying to hear if there was some noise in the next cabin. It didn't occur to me at all to just go out the door and introduce myself like a normal person, saying, "I'm sorry, my cat is in here." It was very quiet. I was sure if someone was there, he must be sleeping. So at that point, you thought it... So at that point, you thought it safe to try to lure the kitten back again, by dangling the end of the toy through the ventilator and into the adjoining cabin. Larka always loves this toy. It didn't work. Nothing worked. I tried using her favorite toy. I tried whistling to her softly, but nothing. She didn't return. But he still seems to, I don't know. So the faint whistling sound Kazuma wrote about in his diary was Miss Pavlova trying to retrieve her pet. Cats have a propensity to remain hidden in the shadows when frightened. Yes, so there was nothing else I could do. I couldn't simply go knock on the door next door. I just had to wait until she calmed down. But then... I nearly passed out with shock. I heard her cry out, and then... Oh, it was such a dreadful bang. Then afterwards, nothing. It was totally silent. Kazuma was... From the appearance of the brown mark on the floor, it seems likely that what you heard was the victim stepping on the glass bell and tripping. The SS Buria is a large vessel, but even she can pitch and roll violently without warning. If Mr. Asogi was already off balance as a result of the ship lurching when the kitten got under his feet, a combination of unfortunate factors could easily have caused him to fall over. But what became of the kitten afterwards? You snake. In the end, I managed to get her to come back through the ventilator. Yet Darka is nowhere to be seen. I must have forgotten to lock my case, and now she's disappeared again. Gracious, that cat is as insufferably restless as I am. Well, he knows something about himself, at least. When I woke this morning, I heard that a young man in the cabin next to mine had died, but I couldn't bring myself to tell anyone what had happened. I was too scared. Scared that they would send me back. Oh, hold on a minute. What about the snake? You're right. Where is it? If the snake isn't your friend, Miss Pavlova, then whose is it, and where did it come from? Why on earth is such a dangerous creature... What on earth is such a dangerous creature doing on board the ship? Oh, I didn't say. Snake is my friend. His name is Pirozko. Nani? That snake belongs to you? He escaped from cage when the emergency alarm sounded. I was looking for him. I did not expect to find him here. Yes, how did that snake get into this cabin? But animals are not permitted on board. We are at sea for 1 year. You want to be so long without close friend? Without someone who understands? Couldn't you find someone a little more human who understands you better? But my dear burly fellow, a gargantuan venomous snake? Surely you can appreciate the danger you're putting everyone in. No venom. Huh? Roscoe does not have venom. He is harmless, very long but very gentle. He is adorable, like Granny. It's venomless? Yes, now he's hungry, so he's in bad mood. But once I feed him, you'll see a big smile. And you feed him what? Milk, I suppose? Like they say, they milk chickens? Ridiculous. Snakes that drink milk are only in stupid stories. Roscoe eats mouses. Big fat round mouses. Ah. Oh, so... is that what the little mousetrap in the passageway out there is for? Of course. How else can I catch my friend's favorite food? Nothing says top of the food chain like the look in their eyes right now. It refuses to drink milk. It can't hear a whistle, it can't climb up a bell cord, and it's not even venomous. How the deuce did something so inept land a starring role? It's not my fault. I do not make up stories. My Pirozko has nothing to do with this incident. So that's what happened. That's the truth behind my best friend's tragic death. admittedly a little disappointing. Considering that, well, okay, no spoilers. No spoilers of the Phoenix Wright games. Miss Pavlova, I understand the difficult situation you found yourself in, and I do sympathize. But please remember this. A young man lost his life. If you're going to attempt to cover up your guilt with lies, then no matter what the circumstances, I cannot forgive you. But what are you talking about, Miss Mikotoba? What lies? Miss Pavlova just confessed everything. It was just a series of unfortunate events. An accident. Where is the other one? I'm no great detective like Mr. Sholmes. I don't have a gift for knowing the truth. But even I can see that was not the truth. Don't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo? To be perfectly honest, yes. There's a discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story. I'm sure of it. I just can't quite put my finger on it. I confess, I was intending to let Scotland Yard deal with any outstanding issues on this matter. Oh? I'm only present here for a very specific reason. The tiara. The truth is, you, Mr. Naruhodo, are simply a distraction. A distraction? I do hope you've not been finding your shackles too uncomfortable. Oh, they're on my ear again. Not again. When did he do that? Especially as they're on your wrists as a result of my intervention. I was rather hoping I could resolve matters before we made our next port call. You were Mr. Sholmes? Yes, but I overlooked one important detail. The deceased young man was a very close companion of yours. Was he not? Yes. Kazuma was my closest friend. I owed him my freedom, even. In that case, we must follow this to its conclusion. No further distractions. You must uncover the real truth here, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, whatever that may be. The key to this... the discrepancy. This is the discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story, I'm sure. If I can chase that down, maybe the truth will become clear. The truth about how you really died. About how that scene in your cabin really came to be. Alright, I'll see what I can do. Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Naruhodo. So then, shall we begin? Yes. What we should ponder first is the victim who lost his life in a cabin that was bolted shut from the inside. Well, we already figured that one out. The ship keeled over, and the bolt slid. We also noticed that because the candle in the corner there that fell over in the same direction, as well as the stuff on the table, would have also slid off in that same direction. Everything points to it all going in that direction. But was this truly an unfortunate accident? Or was it in fact no accident at all? That is what we must establish in the first instance. Well, we've already established it, haven't we? The man tripped over the kitten that had climbed into his cabin via the ventilator. Tragic, yes, but still an accident.
Hold it!
Wait, let's just take a step back. It doesn't make sense if that's really what happened, does it? Like, when did he have time to write? I'm gonna have to ask you to spell it out for me, I'm afraid. Yes, it's starting to take shape now. There's a clear contradiction between the facts and Miss Pavlova's story here. The evidence is right there in Cosmo's cabin. It's undeniable. His death couldn't possibly have been a mere accident. Really? Let us show our hand, Mr. Naruhodo. Time to present the evidence. The evidence that proves unequivocally that the victim's death was no mere accident. I suppose this, eh? Well, the fact that something happened, and Biff didn't... Okay, that's back. So either that, or I would suggest that. His death was a little past 2 a.m. It took half an hour between dangling the vent. Well, I guess they figure it was sometime between 1 and a little after 2. So, I mean, there's an entire hour plus in there. So that's not it. Should we do this? Or should we do this? I guess, whatever, we got 5 chances.
Yes!
It's not this. The truth is clearly recorded in this photographic print. There's no way that Mr. Asogi could have left this message on the floor. That script, it's Russian, isn't it? Indeed it is. The word written means wardrobe. I see what you mean. Most people would leave a dying message in their native language, Japanese in this case. But maybe he was studying Russian. But he was going to Great Britain. He would have needed English. It's a simple language. He could have picked it up very fast. That doesn't seem likely. That's actually not the point. It makes no difference whether he knew Russian or not. Sorry, what do you mean? Exactly what I said before. There is no way that Mr. Asogi could have left this message on the floor, and the reason why is clearly explained in here. Damage to the cervical vertebrae, resulting in instant death. Instant death. Ah. Which means, after the victim fell to the floor, he couldn't possibly have written anything, because he was already dead. It's not the only reason either. There's something else we found in Mr. Asogi's cabin. A remnant of something that couldn't possibly have been there, if what Miss Pavlova told us was true. Nani? So Susato-san has noticed it too, then. Putting this message on the floor aside, there's something else that gives the truth away. Oh? This is honestly the only thing I can think, but we can't present that. So, since we can't present, another piece of evidence that proves this was no accident. In other words, okay, now we can do this. Well, again, the only thing I can think is this thing.
Yes!
What point are you trying to make with that evidence? I'm starting to see how Cosmo's death really happened, I think. Okay, I guess not. I think that you are starting to see nothing of the sort, and that was the evidence to prove it. Okay. If it was no accident, then what should we be looking for? One of two things. Either the absence of something you would expect to find at the scene of a crime, or the presence of something you wouldn't. Most compendiously put, my dear madam. I see. Naruhodo. I confess your rather languid I see doesn't fill me with confidence, Mr. Naruhodo. Don't worry, Mr. Naruhodo, I believe in you. Well, more than Mr. Sholmes does, anyway. Yes, it's starting to take shape now, is it? The evidence is in the cab. Come on! I must admit, I'm a little bit... curious as to what we're talking about here. That the scuff of the shoes was not in the same direction as his body?
Yes!
This piece of broken glass next to the mark on the floor. But that's the glass bell the kitten had around its neck. We already know all about that. It was broken in half when the victim tripped over the cat and fell. So we already have a satisfactory explanation. Where's the flaw in that logic? Unfortunately, there's a very big flaw. A fatal flaw. That the other half is in here? What? If that's really what happened, then how did one half of the bell end up back here in this cabin? Ah. Yes, remember that we found the other half of the glass bell in that waste paper basket. Would you care to explain that, Miss Pavlova? Oh no. Both these pieces of evidence clearly point to the same conclusion. That when Mr. Asogi died last night in his cabin, there was someone else in the room. And that same person deliberately arranged the scene to disguise the truth, in order to cover up his or her own guilt. Kia! Yes, there was someone else present in Mr. Asogi's... You're wasting time. Someone else was there? Da, of course, we know this. What are you talking about? Bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. There is no way in or out. Oh, yes. And only the other person in cabin when young student died was you.
Yes!
It's true, I was in the cabin when it happened. You were shut inside the cabin's wardrobe, to be precise about the details. But I don't know Russian. There's no way I could have left a message. Not would have. There's no way you could have left that message, to be precise about the details. Thank you, Mr. Pedantic. Would you mind? Forgive me, my dear fellow. As I was saying, the person in question wrote the word wardrobe in Russian on the floor, in an attempt to incriminate me for the crime, even though I had been asleep in there the entire time. And then, the same person picked up the broken glass bell that had fallen to the floor, for fear of it becoming evidence that would show how Mr. Asogi really died. But why wouldn't this person have taken all the pieces of the bell away, to incriminate her as well? He's a Russian inside job. Leaving half behind was always going to raise questions. Yes, well, it was past 1 o'clock in the early hours of the morning. The cabin would have been quite dark. A single small lamp suspended from the ceiling would barely have cast any light onto the floor there. I suppose. Little wonder then that the culprit failed to notice a fragment of the tiny item. You all suspect me, don't you? It's Seaman Stroganoff. Nina is woman of sea. She is daughter of strong sailor. 2 years ago, they noticed her dancing skills and she went away to join ballet company. But before, she was dancer on the ship, a member of ship's band. You do not accuse ship's angel of being criminal. Ah, so that's it. You say that when young student died, Nina was there in his cabin. But that's not possible. I give my tooth. Okay, but it must be other dude then. Well, this is almost interesting. And why would you give your tooth, pray? How can you be so sure? You are a great detective, you should know. Look truth in eyes. Captain cabin bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. Nobody could go into cabin. Not Nina, not anyone. Or you want to tell me the killer can walk through locked doors? Niet, is impossible. He's right. But wait, I've read about this in detective stories. We've also seen it with our own eyes, Susato. People often tie thread around the... No! around the door latches so they can open and close them from the outside. Thread? Are you stupid? These bulkheads are not barn doors. Certainly not. These are watertight doors, as one would expect to find on any modern steamship. Constructed of heavy steel with not a gap in sight. No threads or needles or magnets could have been used. No, of course not. I thought so too. But Mr. Naruhodo, thanks for throwing me under the bus. Suggested it earlier. So, Susato-san, how could you shift it onto me like that? So, Seaman Stroganoff has a valid point. The cabin door couldn't have been bolted shut from the outside. Not necessarily. But I put it to you that I could bolt this cabin door without laying a finger on it. And in this very cabin, we can see the traces of the method I have in mind, having been used before. Believe it. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, I believe you know what I mean, don't you? A way to shut the bolt of the cabin door from the outside? One way does spring to mind, yes. Do you really know what Mr. Sholmes means, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes. And so should you, because we've seen it happen. Indeed we have. So, what do you mean, indeed we have? Were you hanging on the hook over here when that happened? Forgot how we got in here. So, would you care to do the honors, Mr. Naruhodo? Do I have to actually go out the thing? Point out the telling signs of the method that was used to slide the cabin door bolt across from the outside. Well, this one's really obscure. I'm not seeing a damn thing here. Is it this? I mean, I assume this is where the sound came from.
Yes!
This is it. This shows how it was done. It certainly shows something that was done, I concur. In fact, it's an excellent way to show how easy it is to jump to the wrong conclusion. Oh. But, is it the shelf? A truly dismal way to show how the bolt could be made to slide shut from outside the cabin. I mean, if I could go out that damn door, this would be easier. Surely it can't be possible to make the bolt slide shut without touching it at all, can it? I'm sure that it is. Something in the back of my mind tells me so. Yes, come on. Yes, come on.
Yes!
Look at the bookcase there. See how all the books and things on it have toppled over? That must have happened when the ship made its emergency stop before. Yes, that's right. It's a very powerful vessel after all. When the engines are thrown into reverse, a violent jolt goes across the entire ship. Any small objects that aren't fastened down are bound to fall over. I believe... Yes, it's what's known as the force of inertia, acting on the object. What is in that book that has inertia and snakes? Is there nothing Susato-san doesn't know? Or that isn't in her book, at least? Well, whatever it's called, the same force that pushed over those books on the bookcase also made something else in this cabin move. The bolt on the cabin door. Ah, it was very obvious just after the emergency stop that the ship made earlier. We had come into this cabin not long before, and we hadn't bolted the door. But then... Yes, we all remember. Last time on Dragon Ball Z. Yes. That's it. When the ship stopped suddenly, the bolt flew across and locked the door. Yes, it's made of metal, but it's small and light enough to be moved by the ship's sudden change of speed. or the force of ineptia, if you want to call it that. Are you trying to say that last night, after Mr. Asogi was killed... The SS Buria made another emergency stop? To pick up her. When I woke up this morning and looked around the cabin, I thought it looked a little odd. All the books on the shelves had toppled over, and all the ornaments. It was almost as if someone had run their hand across the shelves and deliberately knocked everything over. Oh yes, I remember that. And I stood them all up again, didn't I? Then, when we came into this cabin, we were surprised to see the same thing in here. All the books and everything had toppled over, just like in Mr. Asogi's cabin. Oh my. Do you have anything to say about this, Ms. Pavlova? Are you out of your mind? You say Buria made an emergency stop? It does seem a little far-fetched. How could that possibly have happened? Unless you're saying that the culprit is actually someone from the engine room. Oh, it is simple enough. Are you forgetting the button in the passageway outside, used to trigger the emergency alarm? Oh, yes, of course. There was a notice, wasn't there, telling you only to press the button in times of emergency. On dark nights when the fog is dense, the captain cannot afford to rely on the eyes of his lookout alone. Hence the placement of a number of buttons around the vessel to allow any crewman to raise the alarm. The sort of button one is almost compelled to press to satisfy one's curiosity. Did you do it? Wait, it was you? When the button is pressed, two things happen in the interests of safety. The emergency alarm bell rings, and the vessel comes to a complete stop. As indeed it did a little earlier today. Mr. Sholmes, surely it wasn't you who... As I always say, a button has but one purpose in life. To be pressed, whatever the occasion. He sounds almost proud of himself. How dare you mess with sheep? I report you to Captain. You are in much trouble now. Now, I'm sure all can wait until later. Let us not overlook the fact that we have now learnt a valuable lesson. When the vessel makes an emergency stop, the bolts, the cabin doors slide closed. Which seems like a very, very bad safety feature. So, what we must now consider... Yes, it all comes down to one thing now. Last night, after what happened... Excuse me, this has been going on for a while. After what happened to Mr. Asogi, did this ship make an emergency stop, or did it not? You're idiots. Buria is a huge ship with many passengers. If we make emergency stop, even in the middle of night, there will be chaos everywhere. What are your thoughts, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, we have someone who came aboard last night, apparently. Well, it's certainly possible some kind of emergency happened last night. We have evidence to support the idea. Really? What evidence, Mr. Naruhodo? Fascinating. Do show us, my good man. What evidence promotes the theory that some emergency gripped the vessel last night? Well, it would be her, yeah? Or this, I suppose, yes? No entries from 2 in the morning? Let's do the safer thing here.
Yes!
Seaman Stroganoff, it's your duty to patrol the first-class area of the ship, isn't that right? That is correct. Why? The ship's log here, that we're just carrying around with us, probably against some kind of law. This would be where you record the details of your duties? What are you doing with that? That is mine! Ah, you rather carelessly left it atop the little makeshift bureau in the passageway out there. But as responsible passengers, we took it into our care, with a mind to return to you later, perhaps. I left it there on purpose. That is where I always put it. The point is, looking at what you usually record, it's clear that under no normal circumstances you write the phrase nothing to report every 30 minutes. But from 2 o'clock last night until first light this morning, nothing was recorded at all. Nothing recorded in the log? That is... because nothing happened. But if nothing happened, you would normally write nothing to report, wouldn't you? Indeed so, which tells us that shortly after 2 a.m., something happened. Here, aboard the SS Burya. Something sufficiently significant to make you forget to fill in the ship's log, in fact. Are you suggesting the ship really did make an emergency stop in the middle of the night? Stop talking rubbish! If I'm perfectly honest, I find that a little hard to believe myself. Oh, why? Well, because if something as major as an emergency stop really had happened, surely all of us would have noticed. That's very true. Thanks to the emergency stop we experienced earlier, we all know what it feels like now. The ship lurched so violently and the alarm bell was so loud. I can't imagine that anybody would sleep through that, even if it happened in the dead of night. Well, no, that's a good point. What of the throbbing? We were all drugged. Sorry? What do you mean? Your head, man. The throbbing of your head since this morning. We've all suffered with it. Ah. Oh, yes. I have had a headache, you're right. In fact, I haven't been feeling myself since I woke up today. Nor have I. My head has been feeling heavy ever since dawn. Yes, you've all been afflicted, haven't you? Just as I suspected. He's right, my head's been throbbing today too. And since eating dinner yesterday evening, everything's felt sort of hazy. I can't really remember anything that happened after I climbed back inside the wardrobe. Then, the first thing I noticed this morning was the throbbing pain in my head. I'd already been dragged out of the wardrobe, and had those handcuffs put on me by that point. Why didn't I wake up when all that was happening to me? Tell me, Mr. Naruhodo, you boarded this vessel as a stowaway, didn't you? Well, yes. Sorry. The stowaway class of accommodation doesn't usually include meals. What did you survive on? Well, Kazuma looked after me. He was always happy to share his meals. So you enjoyed some of the whole roast chicken dish that was served yesterday evening, I take it? Yes, in fact. I had all of it. Kazuma wasn't fond of chicken. Really? So the victim didn't eat any of the chicken at all? That's right. He didn't touch it. Is that relevant? My dear fellow, does that not strike you? Oh, Mr. Sholmes? Do you mean to say that there was something wrong with the chicken? I do. Oh, really? Is that really true? The meal prepared for the passengers last night had been tampered with. Tampered with by the addition of a soporific, designed to induce a very deep slumber in those who consumed it. A sleeping drug. Do you mean whoever did this laced every meal with a sleeping drug so no one would notice the ship's emergency stop? Mr. Naruhodo, of course that's not what Mr. Sholmes means. What a far-fetched idea. Precisely. Lacing every meal of every passenger on board with a soporific drug would certainly be impossible. Unless, that is, every single member of the crew was a conspirator. What? Mr. Sholmes? Well, Seaman? I'm sorry to say that any more deception in this matter will get you nowhere. If you refuse to talk, there would have to be an inquiry made through the shipping company, of course. And were that to happen, every member of the crew, and the captain himself, would be hauled over the coals for aiding and abetting a renegade. Oh, Strogi. Please, no more. I will tell everything. Yeah? I cannot make problems like this for everyone anymore. These crewmen are your former comrades, I believe. Yes. So when I decided to run away, I asked them to help me. We all agreed to help everyone together. She threw away everything. Her fame in the ballet, Mother Russia. We wanted to help our angel. I don't believe it. You are right. We put sleeping drug in chicken last night. Yes, I remember now. I did notice chewing on a lump of something strange and bitter at one point. We could not make all drug, how do you say, dissolve? Talk about heavy seasoning. At midnight in waters near Shanghai, we brought our angel on board. She was helped by comrade on shore with small fishing boat. Right, the Afghanistan thing was what's-his-face's deal. We were never there. Mr. Sholmes here decided on that one. Sorry, my throat is getting parched. While all passengers on the SS Beria slept soundly, thanks to the almost magical effects of the slumber-inducing potion their evening meals had contained. So if that's what happened, the only people awake on the ship last night were the crew, people who disliked chicken, and the newly boarded passenger, Miss Pavlova. And that means it would have been possible for you. You could have used the emergency stop trick to lock Kazuma's cabin door. But how does that make sense? Surely every cabin door would have ended up locked in that case, and there would have been complete chaos. Oh, I wouldn't say so. What? Of course. Just like us, all the other passengers would have eaten their evening meal of chicken in their cabins, after which they would have been overwhelmed by tiredness because of the sleeping drug. Quite. And accordingly, all passengers were already in their cabins for the night. Yes. The overwhelming majority of passengers would habitually sleep with their cabin doors bolted anyway, and so not one of them would have found it remarkable to find the door locked in the morning. In summary, in order to fasten the bolt of a single cabin door on the ship, the culprit brought the entire vessel to an emergency stop in the early hours of the morning. This seems highly suspect, and how would he even know that Kazuma had not... He's weird is all I'm saying. You have talked a long time and said many things. What is point? The point is what I said earlier. There was somebody else present on the scene when the victim lost his life last night. Someone who left a message in Russian on the floor in an attempt to incriminate another. Someone who tried desperately to hide the broken fragments of glass that would reveal the culprit's identity. And someone who abused the ship's emergency stop procedure in order to lock the door. All told, a busy night. But... I don't know anything about this. I am just a little girl. You like to speak with your long English words and explain your clever ideas. But I am sailor, and sailors don't listen to long boring stories. We don't believe. Sailors like me, we trust only what we see with our eyes. A laudable trait. What? I am quite of the same disposition, my good man. Observation to me is everything. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? Do you hear it? That accusatory cry of guilt on the wind. What accusatory cry of guilt? Sorry, you've lost me. proof of involvement, man. But you can't hear such a call with your ears. No. You must hear it with your eyes. For observation is the basis of all deduction. What are you talking about? I believe the time has come for one final logic and reasoning spectacular to expose the truth. I should have ended this one long ago. Well, we're probably going to get this and then an ending story, right? Okay. We'll do this next time.